Goodnight Bear's fluffy bed. Once upon a time, in the corner of a quiet, warm room, there was a small bed. On that bed sat a fluffy stuffed bear. His name was Kumakuin. With his soft fur and big brown eyes, he was loved by children. During the day, he just sat still, but at night, something strange would happen. As night fell and the family went to sleep, Kumakuin gently opened his eyes. Night has finally come. Another fun adventure awaits me today. Kumakuin muttered to himself. In fact, the bed on which Kumakuin was sitting was not just any bed, but a special bed that had magical powers at night. One night, Kumakuin stretched out on his bed as usual, smoothed his fur, and took a deep breath. Then, the bed floated up, slipped through the ceiling of the room, and flew out into the night sky. Outside, the stars were twinkling, and Kumakuin's bed began to drift slowly through them. Where should we go today? Little Bear thought excitedly. At that moment, the bed suddenly picked up speed and headed towards the northern forest. There, Little Bear's friend, the wise owl Mr. Ho, lives. Mr. Ho loved to fly through the forest every night and look up at the starry sky and think. When they arrived at the forest, Mr. Ho called out to Little Bear from the top of a big tree. "Good evening, Little Bear. Are you going on another new adventure tonight?" "Yes, Mr. Ho. I want you to help me think about where we should go today," Little Bear replied. After thinking for a while, Mr. Ho suggested, "Then let's go to the Valley of the Stars. The star fairies live there and there should be a special party being held tonight." "That sounds fun." Little Bear was overjoyed and held onto the bed tightly. Mr. Ho spread his wings and the bed started to fly softly towards the Valley of the Stars. When they arrived at the Valley of the Stars, Little Bear was amazed. The valley was sparkling with the light of the stars, and the star fairies were dancing and having a party. The fairies noticed Little Bear, smiled and waved. "Welcome, Little Bear. Let's dance together." Little Bear was a little embarrassed, but he joined the circle of fairies. The fluffy bed also spun around as if invited by the fairies, enjoying themselves with Little Bear. As the starlight poured down, Little Bear held hands with the fairies and danced, losing track of time. After the party, the fairies gave Little Bear a special star fragment as a present. "If you have this fragment, you can come and visit us anytime," the fairies smiled. Little Bear carefully put the fragment in his pocket and left the forest with Mr. Ho. "Thank you so much for the wonderful adventure tonight, Mr. Ho." "See you again," Little Bear said with gratitude. Mr. Ho smiled and said, "Come anytime, Bear. Let's go somewhere farther next time." The bed slowly rose up again and took Bear back home. As morning approached, the bed quietly returned to its original place and Bear turned back into a stuffed animal. The next day, Bear sat on the fluffy bed, as the children told him, "Let's take a nap again today." Bear was just a stuffed animal during the day. When the children got tired of playing and hugged Bear to sleep, Bear laughed quietly in his heart. When night came, it was time for adventure again. This night Bear was in a slightly different mood. When the fluffy bed rose up as usual and started to fly in the night sky, Bear looked up at the stars and wondered, "What kind of adventure awaits me next?" Then the bed slowly picked up speed and headed towards the river of light. The river continued to the far reaches of the sky, to the land of the silvery moon. The land of the moon was filled with beautiful light and soft music, and Kuma landed there. The residents of the land of the moon welcomed Kuma warmly. They liked to sleep in a special bed made of moonlight, soft and warm like a fluffy cloud. Kuma lay down on the bed and enjoyed chatting with the residents of the land of the moon. All of their stories were like dreams, and Kuma felt as if he was in a dream. It was such a fun time that he forgot the time, but eventually night fell and it was time for Kuma to go home. The residents of the land of the moon gave Kuma a silver star as a present. This star is placed in the brightest place in the night sky. "Please come and visit us in the land of the moon anytime," the residents said. Kuma hugged the star dearly and returned to his bed. "Thank you everyone in the land of the moon. I'll definitely come and visit you again," Kuma replied with a smile. The fluffy bed slowly flew through the night sky again and took Kuma back to his room. As morning approached, the bed quietly returned to its original place, and Little Bear reverted to his stuffed animal form. When morning came, the children hugged Little Bear and said happily, "Good morning, Little Bear. I had a wonderful dream last night." Little Bear smiled in his heart and thought quietly, "Let's go on an adventure together again when night comes." And so, Little Bear's fluffy bed took Little Bear to a new adventure every night. What wonderful dreams await him every night? It's a secret adventure that only Little Bear knows. Good night, Little Bear. And good night, everyone. Let's adventure together with Little Bear in the wonderful world of dreams tonight. The end. Pete's North Pole Adventure. Once upon a time, there was a little penguin named Pete who lived in the Antarctic. Like his friends, Pete spent his days on the land covered in snow and ice, but he had a bigger dream than anyone else. Pete loved adventures, and he especially had a strong admiration for the stars in the night sky. The night sky in the Antarctic is beautiful, with countless stars twinkling. Pete would always sit on the ice at night and look at the night sky. Where can I go to see those stars up close? Pete loved to think about such things. One day, an older penguin spoke to Pete. "Pete, if you really want to see a special star, you should go to the North Pole. They say that there is a special star that shines in the night sky in the North Pole. It is said that this star can only be seen from the highest mountain in the North Pole," the penguin said. When Pete heard this story, his eyes lit up. He decided, I want to go see that star. He heard that the North Pole was far away and that he would have to cross the icy ocean to get there, but Pete's determination did not waver. I'm going to the North Pole, Pete declared to his friends and family. However, everyone looked worried and said, it's dangerous to go that far away. The mother penguin was also worried, but when she saw Pete's serious expression, she simply said, be careful, and knitted him a warm scarf. Pete packed his favorite canned fish and the scarf his mother had made for him into a small backpack. After saying goodbye to his family and friends, Pete headed for the sea. Pete's heart was filled with anticipation and excitement. The beginning of the adventure. Pete's journey was more difficult than he had expected. Soon after leaving Antarctica, a cold wind blew and the ocean waves became higher. At first, Pete enjoyed riding the waves, but he gradually became tired. After swimming for days and days, Pete's small body was completely worn out. But Pete did not give up. I will never give up on my dream to see the North Pole, he decided. As Pete continued swimming in the sea, nearly falling asleep many times, a huge shadow suddenly appeared from the sea. The shadow was a huge whale called Wendy. Wendy looked at Pete with kind eyes and asked curiously, how did such a small penguin travel so far? Pete told Wendy about the North Pole and his dream. After listening to Pete's story, Wendy said, I understand your desire to see the star. But you need a stronger heart and more courage to do that. Wendy told Pete how to get to the North Pole. To get to the North Pole, you must first cross a large iceberg and then cross the deep ocean beyond it. Then, if you climb the highest mountain in the North Pole, you should be able to see the star, Wendy explained. Pete took Wendy's words to heart and continued his journey. When he arrived at the iceberg, he was overwhelmed by its size. The iceberg towered into the sky, and Pete wondered how to climb it. It was not easy to climb, but Pete encouraged himself by saying, I'll climb to the top no matter what, so I can see the stars. He started to climb carefully, step by step. While climbing the iceberg, Pete was blown by strong winds and almost slipped many times, but he clung desperately and held on. After many days, Pete finally reached the top of the iceberg. At that moment, Pete looked back at the vast ocean that stretched out in the distance and the path he had traveled. I've come this far. I'll soon be able to see the North Pole star. Pete thought proudly, with his chest held high. Reaching the North Pole. After crossing the iceberg, Pete continued north. The deep ocean beyond the iceberg was the coldest he had ever experienced, and strong waves came crashing in one after another. Pete continued to swim against the waves, but he was almost swept away many times. Pete believed that I'm sure I'll be able to see the stars if I cross this ocean. However, on the way, Pete got caught in a storm. The storm was fierce, the waves got higher, and the wind was about to blow Pete's small body away. Pete desperately clung to the sea and told himself, "I won't give up." When the storm passed, Pete was completely exhausted. But Wendy's words were still in his mind. "Have a strong heart and courage," Pete told himself again and continued swimming. Finally, Pete reached the vast snowy plains of the North Pole. Adventure in the North Pole. The North Pole had a completely different landscape from the Antarctic. The land covered with snow and ice continued endlessly. Pete was captivated by the beauty, but his goal of seeing the stars in the North Pole remained in his heart. Pete looked up at the sky that night. Unfortunately, the sky was cloudy and he couldn't see a single star. Pete was a little disappointed, but he encouraged himself by saying, "I'm sure I'll be able to see the stars tomorrow," and slept soundly on the ice. The next day, Pete began to search for a high mountain in the North Pole. As Wendy had told him, he believed that if he climbed that mountain, he would be able to see the stars. However, the mountain was very steep and it was not easy to climb. The mountain path covered with snow and ice was slippery, and he almost fell many times, but Pete did not give up. Halfway up the mountain, Pete met Ark, an Arctic fox. Ark was a beautiful fox with white fur, and he spoke to Pete kindly. When Ark asked Pete, "Where did you come from?" Pete told him that he had come from the Antarctic to see the stars in the North Pole. After hearing his story, Ark said, "Your courage is real. Let's go see the stars together." The two of them worked together to go up the steep path covered with snow and ice. At times, strong winds blew, and Pete almost fell many times, but Ark helped him. Ark knew the dangerous places on the mountain path and led Pete to a safe path. Meeting with the stars. Finally, the two reached the top of the mountain. The view from there was the most beautiful Pete had ever seen. The vast snowy fields and the sea of ice, and the clear blue sky above them. Pete and Ark were mesmerized by the beautiful scenery for a while. However, Pete's mind was still focused on finding the North Star. As night fell and the sky darkened, Pete and Ark looked up at the night sky from the top of the mountain. Then, the clouds disappeared and the sky was filled with stars. Then, a big star that shone brightly among them appeared. It was a star that emitted a special radiance called the North Star. As Pete gazed at the star, he was moved and said, "This is the star I have always wanted to see." The starlight shone gently, as if it was enveloping Pete. Pete thought to himself, "I came all the way here to see this star. I overcame all difficulties and made my dream come true." He felt proud of himself. Ark was also moved by the beautiful star and said, "Pete, your courage and determination showed me this star." The two of them quietly gazed at the star for a while. Its brilliance remained in their hearts forever. On the way back, Pete's heart was filled with joy after seeing the star over the North Pole. However, he still had a big journey ahead of him, returning to the Antarctic. Ark said, "I'll take you to the Antarctic," and Pete was filled with gratitude. On the way back, the two crossed the iceberg again and swam through the cold sea. However, Pete's heart was light, and he was full of confidence after seeing the stars. He also reunited with Wendy, and when he reported to her that he had seen the stars, Wendy smiled and said, "Pete, you really had a wonderful adventure." When Pete returned to the Antarctic, his family and friends welcomed him warmly. Everyone was moved by Pete's adventure and listened with great interest to his story about the North Pole star he saw. Then Pete and his family looked up at the Antarctic night sky. There were stars that shone just like the ones he had seen. As Pete looked at the stars, he truly felt that chasing your dreams is wonderful. Pete's adventure taught him an important lesson. No matter how far away your dream is, if you don't give up and keep chasing it, you will definitely reach it. And that dream will become a lifelong treasure and enrich your heart. Since then, Pete continued to chase new dreams in Antarctica, but the North Pole star always shone in his heart. The end. Welcome to the mysterious land of dreams. Once upon a time, there were two brother and sister named Tomoki and Yuka who were very close. They always loved to have fun dreams at night, and no matter how busy they were, their favorite time was to go to sleep. They would listen to their mother read them a story, rest their bodies in their fluffy beds, and before they knew it, they would travel to the world of dreams. That night, as always, they heard their mother's gentle voice, and as soon as the story ended, the two of them immediately closed their eyes. But today, something was different. The moment Tomoki fell asleep, a faint light poured into the room. The light slowly spread, enveloping the entire room, and the stars began to twinkle on the ceiling. It was a beautiful sight, as if the night sky had suddenly appeared. "Yuka, look! The stars are falling," Tomoki said in a surprised voice. Yuka also got up, rubbing her eyes, and muttered, "It's true, it feels like I'm dreaming." At that moment, the stars suddenly started to move, and little by little they gathered together to create a large door. The door shone golden, as if it was leading to another world. "Let's go!" Tomoki held Yuka's hand, and the two of them stood in front of the door. The door opened quietly, and a mysterious scent drifted along with the soft breeze. When the two of them took a step, a dazzling dreamland spread out before them. What spread out before their eyes was a world completely different from reality. The sky was rainbow-colored, and fluffy clouds floated like candy. On both sides of the road, flowers bloomed, swaying like dancing, and every time the wind blew, the petals flew up and scattered into the sky. "Where are we?" Yuka asked in surprise, and a gentle voice came from somewhere. "This is a mysterious dreamland. I've been waiting for you." When the two of them looked toward the voice, a beautiful spirit was standing there. Her name was Luna. She was wearing a dress that shone like moonlight, and her long silver hair was blowing in the wind. Come, welcome to the land of dreams. A special adventure awaits you today. Luna smiled and invited them. Guided by Luna, Tomoki and Yuka began to walk through the land of dreams. The path shone with a mysterious light, and as they walked, stars appeared and disappeared under their feet. Along the way, animals were playing happily, and islands of sweets could be seen floating in the air, making it seem as if they had wandered into a world of picture books. The first place they arrived at was the secret forest where the stars live. Countless stars shone above the trees, emitting a gentle light like lamps. As Tomoki and Yuka approached, the stars welcomed them with a gentle light, as if they were talking to them. This is where the stars rest before shining in the night sky. They spend the day quietly in this forest, and at night they fly into the sky, Luna explained. Tomoki's eyes sparkled as he asked, "Can you talk to the stars?" "Of course." "Give it a try," Luna replied, and Tomoki gently touched one of the stars. "Hello, Tomoki. You're always brave and adventurous," the star whispered gently. Yuka also said hello to a nearby star, which replied, "Yuka, your dreams are always colorful and wonderful." As the two of them had fun talking to the stars, their hearts were warmed by the light of the stars. Next, Luna took them to a magical lake. The lake was as clear as a mirror, and when they got close, they could see their own reflection in it. But this lake had a special power. It reflected the dreams they were having and the dreams they would have in the future. When Tomoki approached the lake and looked into it, he saw the image of the adventure he dreamed of. He was an astronaut exploring the stars. Tomoki stared at the sight with fascination and excitedly exclaimed, "I want to go to space." When Yuka also looked at the lake, her dream was projected. She was a florist, smiling and welcoming customers with colorful flowers. She was also engrossed in the dream and whispered, "I want to make everyone happy with flowers." Leaving the lake behind, Luna took the two to an even more fun place. It was a huge slide that shone with rainbow colors. This slide was different from ordinary ones, and when you slide down it, you feel like you are flying in the sky. Tomoki and Yuka held hands and decided to slide down the slide together. Feeling the breeze, the two looked down at the vast view of dreamland. Below, flying dolphins were jumping around, and sweet scents were drifting from the island of sweets. Animals were running freely on the grassland, and birds were flapping their wings to cross the rainbow bridge. "Wow, I can't believe there's such a wonderful world," Tomoki cried excitedly. Yuka replied with a smile, "It really is a dream world. I want to play more." After sliding down the slide, the two decided to play with the animals of the dream world. There were talking cats, dancing penguins, and rabbits flying through the air, and they welcomed them warmly. As they played with the animals, Tomoki and Yuka gradually began to feel sleepy. Even in the mysterious dream world, night comes. The sky is full of stars, and the wind gently whispers in their ears. It's almost time to wake up, Luna told them. But this dream world is always waiting for you, so you can come again. Tomoki and Yuka thanked Luna with a little sadness, but with a happy heart. I'll definitely come again. Luna smiled, waved to the two, and said, I'll see you again in my dreams. At that moment, the scenery around Tomoki and Yuka slowly began to blur, and they found themselves back in their beds. The room was quiet, and the silence of night spread outside. Yuka, that was an amazing dream, Tomoki whispered, and Yuka smiled and replied, Yeah, let's go to that dreamland again. The two closed their eyes once more and fell into a deep sleep, as if enjoying the continuation of their dreams. The end. A sleepy squirrel collecting acorns. Once upon a time, there was a little squirrel who lived in a big tree in the forest. The squirrel's name was Choco. Choco played happily with other squirrels during the day, but at night, he loved to quietly collect acorns in the quiet forest. During the day, the forest was bustling with many animals, including squirrels, birds, deer, and rabbits. The wind blew gently through the lush trees, and the sound of the leaves rustling echoed throughout the forest. Choco and his friends also flew around the branches, taking naps on the leaves in the sunlight and munching on nuts. However, when the sun went down and night came, the forest changed completely. At night, the forest was enveloped in silence, and the moonlight spilled through the trees, softly illuminating the ground. Choco loved this silence very much. It's like the forest is asleep at night, Choco thought. Choco quietly came out of his burrow at night, as usual. It was completely dark all around, the stars were twinkling, and the moon was shining high in the sky. The wind was blowing quietly, and the sound of the leaves of the trees rustling slightly could be heard. The forest was enveloped in a quiet and calm atmosphere, completely different from the daytime. Now, let's collect lots of acorns tonight, said Choco, and started walking through the forest. Choco looked carefully at the base of the trees and among the grass to find fallen acorns. The moonlight softly illuminated the ground, so it wasn't that difficult to find the acorns. This acorn is big and looks delicious, said Choco, happily picking up the acorn. Then, after putting it in his bag, he looked for the next acorn. Every time he collected an acorn, Choco's heart was filled with joy. It seemed that he would find a lot of acorns tonight. Choco walked a little further into the forest. It's a quiet place where few other animals come, and it's Choco's favorite spot to collect acorns. There must be a lot of acorns here that no one has found yet, Choco thought, gazing excitedly at the ground. Then, there were many shining acorns lying there, like treasures. Yay! Today is the best day to find so many acorns, Choco said with great joy, picking up the acorns one by one. But then, Choco heard the sound of rustling leaves. It seemed like something was approaching. Choco looked around in surprise, but couldn't see anything. "Is someone there?" Choco asked nervously, staring toward the sound. Then, suddenly, he heard a voice from above. "Choco, you're busy collecting acorns at night." He looked up in surprise and saw the owl Popo perched on a tree branch. Popo is a nocturnal owl, and he flies quietly through the forest at night, searching for prey. Popo sleeps high in the trees during the day, so he never saw Choco collecting acorns, but tonight he found Choco by chance. "Oh, Popo, don't scare me," Choco laughed. "I'm sorry, I thought I was being quiet. But I didn't know you were collecting acorns so late at night," Popo laughed, clicking his beak lightly. "Yes, I like the forest at night because it's quiet and I can collect acorns without being disturbed by anyone," Choco said. Popo looked down at Choco from the top of the tree and said, "But be careful. They say that strange things often happen in the forest at night," leaving behind some cryptic words before flying off into the depths of the forest again. "Strange things?" Choco tilted his head, but didn't pay any attention to it and resumed collecting acorns. As he continued to pick up acorns, Choco gradually forgot about the words. That night, there were an especially large number of acorns, so Choco filled his bag with them one after another. But then, Choco suddenly noticed a faint light coming from deep in the forest. "What is that?" Curious, Choco approached the light. As he got closer, the light gradually became brighter, and eventually the source of the light became clear. There, lying on the ground, was a mysterious, shining golden acorn. "I've never seen an acorn like this." Choco was surprised and gently picked up the acorn. The acorn was shining softly, as if it had collected moonlight. "This must be a special acorn," Choco thought. But then, a strong wind suddenly blew, and the trees began to rustle. "Is this the mysterious thing Popo was talking about?" Choco became a little scared. When the wind stopped blowing, the big tree in front of him slowly started to move. The trunk of the tree spun around and the branches stretched out towards the sky. Choco opened his eyes wide in surprise. "Choco, you cherish the quietness of the night," the tree said in a gentle voice. "I am the guardian of this forest. At night, I watch over the forest and make sure the animals live in peace." Choco was surprised, but asked, "Thank you. But why did this golden acorn fall here?" The guardian smiled quietly and answered that acorn can only be found by a special squirrel in the forest. "You cherish the forest at night and quietly collect acorns. That's why this acorn was waiting for you to find it." Choco's heart was warmed by his words. "I just love the quietness of the forest at night and collect acorns," he said, and the guardian nodded gently. "That's fine. As long as you cherish nature and have a heart that loves the forest will be happy." Choco thanked the guardian tree and carefully placed the golden acorn in his bag. Then, he slowly began to walk through the quiet forest lit by the moonlight again. Choco resumed collecting acorns, keeping his encounter with the guardian tree in his heart. As he walked through the forest, the golden acorns glowed slightly in the bag, giving a sense of warmth. Encouraged by the light, Choco walked further in. The forest gradually became deeper, and the trees became taller, as if they reached the sky. As Choco walked slowly, he looked down at the ground. Suddenly, he found an acorn at his feet that was a little different from ordinary acorns. It was shaped like a star and glowed a pale silver color. "Is this a special acorn too?" he wondered, carefully picking it up. At that moment, the wind blew a little stronger again, shaking the branches of the trees lightly and rustling the leaves. Choco listened carefully and looked around. "Maybe Popo has come again," he thought, but there was no one there. "Is someone there?" Choco called out quietly, but there was no reply. Feeling a little uneasy, Choco put the silver acorn into his bag. The forest is a mysterious place. Finding such an unusual acorn, Choco thought to himself. As Choco walked, several silver acorns identical to the one he had found earlier began to appear at his feet. They were lined up as if they were leading Choco somewhere. What could this be? Choco wondered, and he followed the acorns as he went, and eventually he reached an open area in the forest. There, a large lake spread out quietly, and the moonlight sparkled on the water. "I can't believe there's a lake here." Choco was surprised and stood by the lake. The lake was calm, with a mirror-like surface without a single ripple. And in the center of the lake stood a large silver acorn tree. The tree was more beautiful than any tree Choco had ever seen, and it was as fantastical as a scene in a dream. "This tree led me here," Choco murmured quietly. The tree swayed slowly, and the leaves blew in the wind and made a sound. The sound was pleasant to Choco's ears, like a singing voice. Choco gazed at the beautiful scenery for a while, imprinting the moonlit lake and the acorn tree in his mind. "There are still many mysterious things in this forest that I don't know about," he thought. Then, feeling his heart calm down, he started walking through the forest again. As Choco walked through the forest, the stars in the sky shone brighter and brighter, and the whole forest seemed to be enveloped in a dreamlike world. "What a wonderful night today," Choco thought. The bag was completely filled with acorns that Choco had collected, and he smiled with satisfaction. "Tomorrow, I'll go out into the forest at night again and collect more acorns," he decided, and slowly returned to his hole. The forest was as quiet as ever, and only the sound of the wind and the moonlight gently lit Choco's way home. And the moment Choco returned to his hole and gently put his bag down, he thought he heard the owl Popo quietly whisper goodnight in the distance again. Lying in his fluffy bed, Choco thought back on his adventures of the day. Living in a mysterious forest is really something special, Choco thought to himself, and slowly closed his eyes, feeling truly grateful. Enveloped by the silence of the forest, the light of the moon, and the sound of the wind, Choco fell into a deep sleep. Tomorrow, a new night adventure will be waiting for him. The end. A magic carpet in a dream. Once upon a time, there lived a boy named Rio. Rio was curious and always interested in new things. He loved playing outside, and his daily routine was to run through the trees and skip stones in the stream. Rio was always cheerful and always smiling, and he was loved by the people of his village. The village where Rio lived was at the foot of a mountain. It was rich in nature in every season, with flowers blooming in spring, shining green in summer, red and yellow leaves dancing in the wind in autumn, and snow covering the whole place in white in winter. Rio grew up in this nature, and he always lived listening to the voice of nature and feeling the smell of the wind. His house was an old wooden house on the edge of the village, built near a big tree. Inside the house, there was the warmth of wood, and Rio's room in particular was a quiet place with a beautiful view from the small window. At night, Rio often sat by the window and looked at the starry sky. Especially on full moon nights, the moonlight gently lit up Rio's room, making him feel as if he was in a dream. Every time Rio saw the stars and the moon, he would let his imagination run wild, wondering what kind of world unfolded there. He had a strong admiration for the night sky, and in his heart he wished that one day he too would travel to the world of stars. One night, Rio went to bed as usual, but he just couldn't sleep. Outside, the wind was blowing and he could hear the rustling of the trees, but Rio's heart was filled with a premonition that something was about to happen. Even when he closed his eyes, he couldn't fall asleep, so he quietly got up from his bed. Looking towards the corner of the room, Rio saw a small carpet that wasn't usually there. Rio approached it curiously, and the carpet suddenly floated up and spoke to him in a gentle voice. "Good evening, Rio. I'm a magic carpet. I'll take you to a wonderful world of dreams." Rio was surprised, but the carpet's voice made him feel at ease. As if it had been waiting for a long time, the carpet gently embraced Rio and rose up. "Can I really go to the world of dreams?" Rio asked with shining eyes. "Of course. Come on, get on me," the carpet said, and picked Rio up and flew out the window. The stars in the night sky seemed so close that he could reach out and touch them, and Rio's heart beat faster. The carpet glided softly through the sky, taking Rio to an unknown world. The first place they arrived at was the Kingdom of Candy. In this country, everything was made of sweets. The roads were paved with chocolate, and the houses were made of candy and marshmallows. Rio's eyes widened at the sight. The residents welcomed Rio with smiles and dressed in costumes made of sweets. Rio enjoyed sweet treats with the residents and felt as if he was in a dream. As he crossed the chocolate river and walked through the candy trees, Rio was drawn deeper and deeper into the dream world. He enjoyed watching the residents chatting in the sugar candy house and the children sliding down the colorful ice cream mountain. Rio felt a little sad to leave this world of sweet smells and colors behind, but the carpet called him to the next place, so he flew off into the sky again. The next place he visited was a white castle floating on the clouds. Built on soft clouds, the castle shone like a jewel in the sky. Rio was amazed and walked on the clouds to the castle. The clouds under his feet were fluffy, and he felt as if he was walking in the sky. Inside the castle, rainbow-colored birds flew around and singing flowers bloomed in full bloom. Rio was captivated by the beauty and explored inside the castle. The castle's residents were elegant, and they smiled and waved to Rio. Rio was grateful for the welcome and walked through the beautiful garden with the carpet. Continuing their journey, Rio and the carpet arrived at the land of stars. The land was made up of the stars that shone in the night sky, and it was one of the most beautiful places in dreams. The residents of the stars were wearing sparkling costumes and enjoying an elegant ball. Rio joined them and danced with the stars. The music of the night sky enveloped Rio's heart, and it felt as if time had stopped. At the end of the journey, the carpet led Rio to the garden of his dreams. There, the most beautiful flowers he had ever seen were in full bloom, and colorful butterflies were fluttering about. In the center of the garden was a fountain that could grant wishes, and Rio quietly placed his hand into the fountain. The wish to sleep came to Rio's heart, and a sense of peace spread across him, as if his wish had been granted. The carpet gently brought Rio back to the house and gently put him on the bed. "Thank you, Rio. You had a wonderful dream trip. Now I'll take you to another dream world," the carpet said, whispering gently in Rio's ear. As Rio lay in bed, he remembered the adventures he had with the carpet and slowly closed his eyes. The next moment, he was in a deep sleep. In his dream, Rio continued his journey with the magic carpet again. His heart was wrapped in peace, and he was filled with the feeling that any dream could come true. And until morning came, Rio continued his wonderful adventure with the carpet in his happy dream. When Rio woke up, the sunlight was shining through the curtains. The magic carpet was no longer there, but the memories of the dream world were certainly still in Rio's heart. "I'll see you again in my dreams, magic carpet," Rio muttered and started looking forward to another day. And at night, Rio quietly went to bed again. Outside the window, the stars shone, gently illuminating Rio's room. As Rio gazed at the starry sky again, he remembered his adventure with the magic carpet. "What kind of dreams will I have today?" Rio thought to himself as he gently closed his eyes. At that moment, a gentle breeze blew by Rio's pillow, and he heard a voice whisper quietly in his ear. "It's me, Rio. I'll take you to a wonderful dream world again." Rio smiled at the voice and was invited into the dream. Rio's heart was swelling with anticipation, wondering what kind of adventure awaited him this time and what new world would unfold before him. In Rio's dream, the magic carpet appeared again, this time taking him to the land of the moon. The land of the moon was a beautiful world of silvery sand dunes and crystal lakes. Rio walked slowly, bathed in the moonlight. The stars were reflected on the surface of the lake, and it looked as if the starry sky had come down to earth. The inhabitants of the moon welcomed Rio with smiles as soft as the moonlight. They gave Rio a small pendant made of moonstone and told him that it was a magical item that would grant any wish. Rio treasured the pendant and enjoyed his time in the moon country. Rio and the carpet continued to travel to various dream worlds. They swam in the rainbow-colored sea, participated in the star dance in the star country, and read stories from all over the world in the dream library. In every world, Rio made new friends and had many wonderful experiences. And when the dream trip came to an end, Rio expressed his gratitude to the carpet. "Thank you, carpet. Thanks to you, I was able to have so many wonderful dreams." The carpet answered as it gently wrapped Rio in its arms. "Rio, as long as you want, I'll always take you to the world of dreams. But for now, good night. A new adventure awaits you tomorrow." Rio quietly nodded and was put back in bed. Until morning came, Rio slept soundly, and both his mind and body were fulfilled. Then, as the morning sun shone on Rio's face, he quietly woke up. The view from the window was the usual village scenery, but the dream world of last night was certainly still in Rio's mind. "I wonder if I can travel with the carpet again tonight?" Rio thought, preparing to enjoy another new day. Today, Rio was playing in nature and looking forward to the coming of night. And when night came again, Rio went to bed and quietly closed his eyes, dreaming of the next adventure with the magic carpet. The magic carpet was always by Rio's side, taking him to the world of dreams. Rio will continue to have wonderful adventures in many dreams from now on. Star fragments in the night sky. Once upon a time, there was a village surrounded by small mountains and forests. There were many energetic and curious children in the village. During the day, they played hide-and-seek in the village square and explored the forest, but at night, they loved to gather on the village hill and look up at the sky. The night sky was vast and beautiful, with countless stars twinkling and shining. The children were fascinated by the sight and often talked about it. "Where on earth are those stars? What would it feel like to touch a star?" They spent time under the starry sky, letting their imaginations run wild. One night, as usual, the children gathered on the hill to look at the stars. This night, the sky was particularly clear, and the stars shone even brighter than usual. The children were excited and talking about the stars, when suddenly one child shouted, "Look! It looks like a star is falling." The other children also looked up at the sky in surprise. There, a star suddenly began to shine brighter and seemed to grow bigger little by little. Soon, the star, like a drop of light, began to float down from the night sky to the ground. The star got closer and closer and finally landed in the middle of the hill. The children stared at the scene with wide eyes. The star was not just a light, but a tiny piece that appeared before them. The piece was small enough to fit in the palm of your hand, and it shone pale silver and swayed quietly as if it were a living thing. The children slowly approached the star piece. "I wonder if this is really a star," one girl muttered in a small voice. One of the boys mustered up the courage to reach out and touch the star piece. Then, the star piece emitted a soft, warm light and quietly grew brighter, as if welcoming him. "Wow, I can touch this!" The boy's face lit up with surprise and excitement. In the next moment, the star fragments floated up into the air and began to fly around the children with joy. It was as if they wanted to play with them. "Let's chase them," one boy shouted, and everyone started chasing the star fragments. The star fragments flew lightly through the air, sometimes coming down to within the children's reach, and sometimes suddenly jumping up high, as if they were playing tag. The children ran around enthusiastically, and their laughter broke the silence of the night. The star fragments occasionally scattered dust particles of light, which continued to shine in the air as if by magic. The children reached out to grab the light and chased the star fragments wherever they went. Eventually, the star fragments gently landed on the ground again. And at that moment, beautiful waves of light spread around the fragments, and strange things began to happen. Small flowers of light began to bloom one by one on the ground. The flowers of light shimmered faintly, as if they received the light of the stars themselves. "Amazing! This is a star flower," one girl exclaimed. Everyone was excited, peering into the flowers of light and touching them gently. The petals were not cold, but rather slightly warm, and when they touched them, it seemed to spread soft waves of light. "It's a gift from the star fragment," cried an older boy. "This flower will shine all night long." The children were fascinated by the fantastic scene created by the flowers of light. The star fragment continued to shine quietly on the hill, as if it was enjoying this beautiful night with them. Eventually, the night deepened, and a wind blew from the direction of the village. The children suddenly noticed that the star fragment was looking up at the sky. Its light gradually grew stronger, as if it was trying to tell them something. "I wonder if it's time to go home now," one child said sadly. The other children also looked at the star fragment with a slightly sad look on their faces. At that moment, the star fragment floated softly in the air again, emitting light quietly. Then, as if saying "see you later," it slowly rose high into the sky, shining gently. The children waved their hands as they said goodbye to the star fragment. When someone shouted, "Come play with us again," the star fragment shone brightly one last time and disappeared into the night sky. Since then, a beautiful flower field of light was left on the hill. During the day, it looks like an ordinary flower, but at night, it begins to shine like a star. The villagers called the scene the Star Flower Field, and every time the children saw the light flowers, they remembered the mysterious night they spent with the star fragment. From then on, the children looked up at the night sky every night, waiting for the star fragment to come down again. Occasionally, when a distant star shone especially brightly, the children would believe that the star fragment had come to play again, and so they continued to wait on the hill. Then one night, a star began to shine brightly again. The children gazed at the scene with shining eyes, and ran off, dreaming of meeting the star fragment once more. After that, the story of the star fragment and the children has been passed down for many years as a village legend, and the star flower field continues to shine gently every night to this day. The end. Let's end today's story here. Have a good rest and have sweet dreams. Good night.